A significant conversation. Today's daily devotion from Pastor Greg Laurie.
Our scripture reading today is from Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 13. If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me.
Nicodemus had it all. He had all the things that someone should have to be happy: wealth, power, and fame. And he even had morality. People looked up to him. Jesus identified him as a respected Jewish teacher. His name was known by most. He was a man to whom others looked for direction and spiritual answers. But Nicodemus had a lot of questions about life. Even though he was well known, highly educated, and deeply religious, there was something missing in his life, and that brought him to a conversation with Jesus one night. Nicodemus was a Pharisee, and often we think of Pharisees in a negative light. Perhaps that's because Jesus saved his most critical and scathing words for the scribes and Pharisees, but not all of them were corrupt. Understand, it wasn't easy to become a Pharisee. It took a lot of study, preparation, and discipline. A Pharisee was someone who had committed himself in a solemn vow before two witnesses that he would devote every moment of his life to obeying the Ten Commandments. Thus Nicodemus had spent hours studying the Scriptures and hours before God in prayer. He was a very devout and religious individual. Nicodemus had been hearing about the Lord's ministry, which was just wrapping up at this point. He had enough spiritual discernment to know that Jesus was sent from God. However, I don't think that Nicodemus necessarily knew that Jesus was the Messiah of Israel. The conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus wasn't simply a conversation between two historical figures. Rather, it was a conversation between God and humanity. If we were to elect someone to represent us before God, we could not choose a finer individual than Nicodemus. He was the finest specimen that humanity could offer, apart from God's touch. And Jesus gave Nicodemus the answers that have unlocked the mystery of life for countless millions of people through the centuries. It was a significant conversation. The Bible tells us that many believed in Jesus, but he did not believe in them. Why? John gives us the answer. But Jesus didn't trust them because he knew all about people. No one needed to tell him about human nature, for he knew what was in each person's heart. Jesus knew these people were fickle, they were shallow, and they weren't really interested in spiritual answers. Yet it's interesting to see how Jesus made time in his very busy schedule for the searching Nicodemus. In contrast to the fickle crowds, here was a man who truly was searching, so Jesus had time for him. To the person who's playing games or isn't interested, the Lord will say nothing. But to the person who's genuinely searching and wants to know the answers to life, God will reveal the truth. Speaking through the prophet Jeremiah, God said, "If you look for me wholeheartedly, you will find me." God always will reveal himself to true seekers.